begin. Our opening words this morning come to us from the Reverend Victoria Safford. The bright thread of hope. There is too much beauty in this world to give up on it yet, and it is always too soon to surrender to cynicism. Bring your doubt, your skepticism, your downright confusion, even your bitterness. But in the midst of all these, in the center, wrap your tender fingers around that still bright thread of hope. Feel in your heart that still steady hunger for something more. The vision we glimpse every day in the rising sun across the foothills, the light that spreads across the face of one we love, the look of knowing all there is to know and still loving life, loving us just as it is, just as we are. For this hour we come to celebrate, to pause, to give thanks, to refuse to give up, to steady ourselves, keepers of hope, brave builders of this still possible world. Come, let us worship together. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit as we join in singing with our opening hymn. It's in your cloth-bound hymnal or gray hymnal number 347, Gather the Spirit.
Gather the Spirit. Good morning. Welcome to First Parish in Bedford, a Unitarian Universalist congregation where we come together every week as a people with diverse beliefs and a shared commitment to bring more peace, more love, more justice, and more joy into the world. Whoever you are, whomever you love, whether you worship one God, many gods, or no gods, you are welcome here. I want to say a special thanks to all of our visitors this morning, in person or in Zoom. Here in the sanctuary, you are invited to fill out a blue connection card, which you'll find at the end of the pews. You can give that to one of the ushers during the collection, and we will add you to our mailing list. In Zoom, we'll put a link in the chat to a form you can fill out virtually. Kids in kindergarten through 8th grade will leave for their programming partway through the service. If you're here with a younger child, you are welcome to take them downstairs to the nursery at any time, or they're very welcome to stay here with you during the service. After the service, everyone is welcome to join us for coffee, tea, and fellowship in the common room. I have one announcement. This is from Sandy Courier. There will be a presentation of ranked choice voting followed by a Q&A period today at 11:45 here in the sanctuary. Obviously, all are invited. Now, a word about yesterday. We've said this many times and heard this many times from this pulpit, and there were signs yesterday, and it really rung true. Show me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
Yeah, well, it had a big look yesterday, didn't it? And we want to give a big thanks to the public witness team and our ministers who all made yesterday's No King rally possible. It was heartening and hopeful to see such a big crowd of like-minded people showing up with love for country, patriotism, and the determination to take action against authoritarianism. I forgot one thing. Huzzah! Huzzah! One more time. Huzzah! Huzzah! I would ask you to stand as you are able and to recite our unison affirmation together. Love
is the spirit of this church, and service is his law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. El amor es el espíritu de esta iglesia y el servicio es su ley. Este es nuestro gran pacto, vivir juntos en paz, buscar la verdad en espíritu de amor y ayudarnos los unos a los otros.
There we go. Hopefully he stays. Okay. This morning, I'm going to tell a story called Pickles the Pumpkin. I bring to you Pickles. In a quiet patch at the edge of Maple Hill Farm, pumpkins grew plump and proud under the golden autumn sun. Most were smooth, familiar, orange, round, predictable, perfect for pies or jack-o'-lanterns, but not Pickles. No, he was not. Pickles was a pumpkin of some different colors, streaks of green like spring grass, swirls of yellow, and patches of purple that no one could explain. He wasn't round, neither. He leaned on one side with many odd bumps that looked like he giggled or tooted while growing. The other pumpkins didn't know what to make of him. Pumpkins are supposed to be orange, they said, and smooth, said another. You're kind of distracting, a little too much, said another. You throw off the look of this patch. Pickles shrank into himself. If pumpkins could blush, he might have turned a beet red, but he stayed quiet, trying not to be too much. Still, it was hard to hide. Then the sun caught on his colors like a kaleidoscope, and even he was attracting more bees and more love from pollination. One morning, a little girl named Mira came skipping through the patch with her grandmother, searching for the perfect pumpkin. "How about this one?" her grandmother said, pointing to a traditional round orange pumpkin. "It's nice," she said politely, but her eyes kept drifting towards... Pickles! Yeah. "That one!" she cried. "This one is amazing. Look at all the colors and those little bumps. He looks like he has freckles. Or what are they called? Age spots like you." Her grandmother blinked. "Thanks. But this is a very unusual pumpkin," she said. "Well, I think it's perfect," said Mira, hugging Pickles as best as she could. "He looks like a story waiting to happen." That night, Pickle was carried to a cozy porch, placed proudly on a wooden stool, and decorated with stars and swirls, not carved or changed, just celebrated. From that day on, the other pumpkins didn't say much, not because they didn't still think Pickles was a little odd, but because they started to notice something else. People love odd things. People like different things. And sometimes being too much just meant you were more than enough and more than anyone expected. Now, I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 20, and if you can guess it, but first raise your hand and wait for me to call on you, you can take Pickles home and add them to your autumn decor. Okay, so think of a number. Mark.
18.
No. 13. Moira got it. It's 13. Whoa! Second guess! Come up and get your pumpkin! There you go. Pickles got a home. Okay, now let us sing our children to class.
For too long, I've been carrying around in me a deep sense of outrage. These days, it feels almost impossible to look at a newspaper, a phone, social media, my own emails, without something stirring anger, despair, or sadness. After a while, that constant outrage becomes exhausting. It's all too much. My emotional rescue was to retreat into a small, safe world I could control. NPR was muted. Music filled my car, my work, my home. In the mornings, I'd open the Boston Globe, but only the sports section. And hopefully the Red Sox had not lost the night before. Escape was just a click away. But soon I realized I was sinking into outrage fatigue, that numbness that comes from being battered again and again and again by moral wrongs, endless conflict, and the plain old craziness coming from those in power. Did he really just say that? Outrage fatigue is just another way of saying it's all too much. Then a few weeks ago, Jamie from right here gave a sermon that shifted something in me. He provided a framework to understand what I've been feeling and how to address it. I began to see those it's all too much moments, that they can actually be sparks, reminders that I still care deeply, that I still believe in what's right and just, and I believe in truth. And maybe those sparks aren't calling us to retreat, but to act, to show up, to bear witness, to live our lives out loud. Sometimes that means standing together on the Common here on a Friday evening, or like yesterday, gathering at the No Kings rally, affirming our shared commitment to compassion, justice, truth, and doing that in communion. Yesterday was inspiring, but No King's Day cannot be a one-and-done event. There's too much at stake, friends. We cannot sit idly by while the rights and freedoms our forebears fought for are being dismantled in front of our eyes. So, instead of retreating, we can engage fully with this world that is sometimes painful, but is also full of beauty, grace, and possibility. And we can take that it's all too much feeling not as defeat, but as fuel, a call to do our small part to make this world, in whatever way we can, more just, more kind, and more whole. Now, I'm not sure what my small part will look like, but I do know that unless I commit to putting one foot in front of the other foot and moving into the unknown, I will never turn possibility into certain. I will turn possibility into certain defeat. Onward and upward, friends.
I wanted to make one quick correction to my attribution of the opening words, especially since it's not written in our order of service. The title, A Bright Thread of Hope, was taken from words by Victoria Safford, but the reading was actually written by Reverend Gretchen Haley, so just for the record. But this is a community where we help each other hold what is too much. And so I invite you this morning, as we often do, to give generously to support this community. And remember, there's never too much of generosity.
This reading is titled Too Much of Everything, and it starts with a quote by Maya Angelou. Each of us needs to withdraw from the cares which will not withdraw from us, from the cares which will not withdraw from us. There they were, 10 preschoolers in suits and fancy dresses, each holding one letter of Merry Christmas. I know that they must have started out the morning with at least 14 kids, because their long-suffering choir director would not knowingly drag them onto the chancel to spell out E-R-R-Y space C-H-I-M space S-A in front of the whole caroling congregation. Now, I had gone to church that morning specifically to see Mel, my friend's daughter. She had campaigned for and won the coveted role of the first M for Mel, the one that starts out the whole production, and she was ecstatic about her stage debut. Eri Chimsa, the letters proclaimed. If you look carefully, you would see that Mel and her letter M were not actually missing. She was indeed up there on her rehearsed remark, far on stage left, lying prostrate on the floor, gold tulle dress flipped upside down over her face, both fists flung out ahead, the carefully glittered, crumpled M unceremoniously smooshed into the carpet under her body. Later, she explained, it was a little too much of everything. I just needed to stop for a moment. Next time, I will take calm breaths. There is so much anticipatory joy and more than a little gumption in having the grandiosity to show up for the party in a gold tulle in the first place, and such self-possessed wisdom in lying down and pulling it over your face when everything is too much.
There is a cute anecdote in my household about how when my housemate Elizabeth was very young and was at an event where adults were scooping ice cream, some kind of ice cream social, I surmise. When asked how much ice cream she wanted, she replied, "Too much." It's understandable to want too much ice cream, but it does bring up an existential question. What is too much ice cream? Is it more ice cream than you can eat in one sitting? Is it more ice cream than is healthy for your blood sugar or digestive system? Is it more ice cream than a parent thinks is reasonable? Is it more ice cream than your fair share of the collective carton? We know that right now there is too much fascism. And we are not alone in knowing that, as we saw yesterday. Many, many people are aware that there is too much right now. We know that the current level of ICE enforcement in our country is too much, and too violent, and too many people, and too brazen, and too devoid of due process. We can see that from the ICE standouts and from things like No Kings. But then I still wonder, where is the line? Was it too much when Biden deported 4.4 million individuals in 2 years of his term? Or was that an acceptable amount? There are many such questions I ponder. What is too much money to have? If I have enough to meet all my basic needs and also do things like eat out and see plays and travel, is that too much? When so many people in my community are facing eviction and food insecurity? Or is it fine because other people have multiple homes and still others have yachts and still others have so much wealth that I literally cannot comprehend it? I know that Bezos has too much. But where's the line? We humans have the wonderful ability to adapt to our circumstances and our context. And it is a very important ability. We cope, we normalize, we justify, and this is how we survive. The downside is that it can be genuinely challenging to figure out what is actually too much or too hard. I find that I recognize this in myself. Given how long I've been in close communication with people who are in immigration jail, I will sometimes react with indifference, even some amount of annoyance, when a family member of a person in detention or a new volunteer with our organization reports with desperation that someone was transferred far away with no notice or explanation, or that the food is inedible, it's rotten. And my initial response will be, in my head, yeah, that's normal. That's just ICE detention. I don't want that to be my reaction. I want my reaction to be, that is horrendous. That is inhumane. I want my heart to always know what is too much. I think that's part of why I love that story that we heard today from Braver Wiser. Braver Wiser is a weekly little short newsletter that comes from the UUA. Not a newsletter really, but a story like we heard this morning of the girl on the chancel with her dress over her head. It reminded me of a real-life story of my partner's niece, who was 3, who was put in 3-year-old soccer, for what that's worth. And during one of her soccer games, when the ball came to her and all the other kids are running around and her dad said, "Come on, kick the ball," she looked down, looked around, and said, "This is a bit too much for me." While part of me really wants to take a page out of the book of these preschoolers, there are good reasons that we don't generally just lie down and put our outfits over our faces at social gatherings. Or it's also probably a good thing that when a bit overwhelmed by a tense meeting or an extra lively youth group session, I don't just shake my head and say, "This is a bit too much for me." A key part of adulthood is learning to handle things that sometimes really are too much. We heard the litany from Joe already about the many ways the world can be too much, and that's not even taking into account what is too much in our personal lives. And I know you know. There has been so much loss in this community, and there is so much that is hard that we don't even know about, that is going on in all of our families and our neighborhoods and our lives. And it is so easy to just want to retreat from it all, whether you're retreating from the news in outrage, fatigue, or doing something to dissociate from the pain in your own life. And it is so understandable. And also, it is our task to somehow stay present. And that is true even when we feel like the too much is in us. Because sometimes we feel like we are too much, like our feelings or our reactions or our needs are too much, our personalities are too much. This message can be given to some people more than others by society. It is especially true for women in general, that we are often told we are too much, especially fat women, women of color, also people who are neurodivergent, also gay men and gender fabulous people of every stripe. This is a passage from a book called Becoming that I hand out to our youth when they graduate from being youth in our congregation into young adulthood. And this is by Reverend Ashley Horan, who now works for our Unitarian Universalist Association doing justice ministry. She writes, "By the time I was in my late 20s, I was convinced that I would never find love. I had had a few boyfriends, but over and over again, I was exiled. I always suspected that it was because I was too much, too smart, too feminist, too radical, too fat, too independent, too big of a personality. After a while, I reached the conclusion that I would just have to get used to the idea of being too much all by myself. She then tells the story of meeting her partner, Karen, and at the end, she writes of the, quote, compassionate network of chosen and original family that somehow affirms me and celebrates that very too muchness that I thought might leave me alone forever. Like Pickles the pumpkin, she discovers that what is too much about her to some is deeply cherished by others. This is a beautiful story with a happy ending, and it makes it clear that what we sometimes can perceive or receive as too much was not too much at all. It was maybe just threatening to patriarchy or social norms. Patriarchy wants us to be small and quiet, very demure, very mindful, as the meme from last year says. Patriarchy wants us to be easy to control. So taking up space, owning our feelings, only apologizing when we've actually done something wrong, celebrating our bodies and our style are all small acts of resistance, especially in this moment of intensified sexism in our society. As Dove Cameron sings in the pop song that I've become familiar with by having a fifth grader, if you say I'm too much, baby, go find less. If you can't stay up, stay below, I guess. So, on the one hand, it is clear what is not too much. Your body is not too much. Your size is not too much. Your snazzy or unusual sense of style is not too much. Your nerdy enthusiasm is not too much. Your anger or passion about injustice is not too much. And as we heard from the choir today, one person can make enough noise for 10, and that can change the world. But you might be thinking, what about when something about me really is too much for someone else? What about when it's not just the patriarchy? What if I'm impacting people negatively? What if I talk so much in a meeting that other people don't get a chance to share their ideas? Or what if I interrupt people with my enthusiasm and it hurts their feelings? What if I over-communicate and send so many long emails that people get overwhelmed and can't take it in? It's back to that tricky question. What is too much? How much is it ableism or sexism, and how much is it a very reasonable expectation to share space or communicate effectively? We can get a bit stuck here in the "but what is too much" question. I don't have any simple answers to that question, but I do have a key reminder, which is that even if something you do is too much for a certain person or situation, you are not too much. This is hard for me to remember when I'm the one doing it. Sometimes it feels like my very being is too much, when I know that my intensity was jarring or off-putting, or when I interrupted again, or I spoke more than my fair share and I know it. And shame can be even more present when those behaviors or aspects of us have already been stigmatized or misunderstood by society. When the interrupting is ADHD, or the monologuing is autism, or the over-explaining is a trauma response, or the reaching out repeatedly for reassurance is an attachment issue. Thankfully, there are tools. There are tools to help us out when we are overwhelmed by all that is too much in the world and in our lives, or when we feel like too much in ourselves. Support, boundaries, and tending to ourselves. Support can look like many things. It can look like someone sitting with you and your big feelings, listening to venting, providing practical support like food and rides, helping you figure out your next steps, reminding you that you are loved just as you are. And one of the things I love about this community is I see so often how you support each other. And I also know that some struggle to to ask for support, even struggle to accept support when it's offered. Some don't have the same amount of connections, aren't connected as well socially, and don't have as much access to support. And official supports like therapy and social services can be wonderful and can be a nightmare to find and arrange and pay for. It's not easy. It's not fairly distributed, but support is so important. And so for those of us who do have enough support in the moment, we can look for someone who might not. Another tool, an important one for when everything is too much, is boundaries. And boundaries, as we know, are limits that we set on our own choices and behavior. They are not requests or methods to control the behavior of others. Boundaries can be explicitly stated, like, if anyone engages in diet talk at this meal, I will leave the table. Or they can be completely internal. I will not take responsibility for that other person's feelings and reactions. They can be quantitative. I will not spend more than 20 minutes on social media each day. Or they can be qualitative. I will not spend my optimal time with people who are draining and unsupportive. Boundaries are also a balancing act, a figuring out of where the line is. Too rigid, and we are cutting ourselves off from connection and limiting our humanity. Too permeable, and we're not honoring ourselves. We're not finding that space from which we can love ourselves and others simultaneously. A definition of boundaries by Prentice Hempel that I return to repeatedly. But the good thing is that boundaries can shift and change. Like any covenant, like a covenant we make together, a promise to yourself can be made and broken and remade, reshaped, attempted again. We are only human, which brings us to the last tool, tending to ourselves. Tending to ourselves is often just about being with whatever feels like too much inside us. Letting ourselves cry or scream into a pillow or shake or do whatever we need to do to allow that overwhelming feeling or reaction to move through us. As I said before, we humans are incredibly resilient, and we can withstand deep grief, powerful sadness, furious anger. It is not easy. It can feel really awful. And it is one of the most important gifts we can offer ourselves, just to witness our own needs and feelings and let it be. One therapeutic framework that I found very useful in my own life is called internal family systems, or IFS. And in this framework, you treat your own reactions and feelings like they are their own parts of a little internal family in yourself. And in that way, you can give a little space to yourself and offer yourself compassion. And one of the things I love about this metaphor is that often we discover that those parts of ourselves that might give us the most trouble, might feel the most overwhelmed or the most intense, are young parts. They're little children inside of us that maybe didn't get what they needed when they were young, that maybe have a wound from the past, and that we can root ourselves in an adult-centered self, and we can tend to them. It's the both and of saying, yes, this is too much, and also, yes, you can be present and find a way forward. Sometimes we may need to lie down and give up, though hopefully not on the chancel, and ideally with our outfits still fully covering all of our bodies. Sometimes we may need to shake our heads and say, this is a bit too much for me. Sometimes we need to pause and question whether something is normal or whether it's something that we've normalized that really is not okay. Other times we need to question whether something is too much or if we've just been socialized into patriarchy and ableism. The answers are not clear. There's no perfect way to discover what is really too much. But there are tools that are there for us when something is too much for our nervous systems. The power of community support. Our ability to rethink and hold boundaries. And the simple gift of tending to ourselves, just as we are, being just with what is. With that, I'd like to invite you to join in singing our closing hymn. It is in your cloth-bound or gray hymnal. 'Tis a gift to be simple. I don't have the number in front of me. It's number 16. In these times when it is all too much, and in our own lives when it is all too much, may we continue to offer ourselves the simple gift of presence, offer others the gift of support, and remember the gift of boundaries that is always in our power. May it be so. the hour for fellowship and beverages.